Hi, everybody. So last time we talked about the two types of regulation. We have nervous regulation that has the brain, the spinal cord, and the peripheral nerves. And we have the endocrine system, which has all of the different glands that produce hormones that travel through the blood. The cat is moving the computer. So we have nervous regulation and endocrine regulation. And this time we're going to talk about nervous regulation and nervous system. We're going to be very quick about this. So we have, as I said, a brain, a spinal cord, and then all the peripheral nerves. That's really all you need to know about it, except you need to understand the cells that make up the tissue of nerves. So remember that we have organelles that make up cells, that make up tissues, that make up organs, that make up organ systems. Well, the cells that make up nerve tissue, make up nerves, is very unique. It's very different than the rest of the cells. So we're going to take a little look at how that works. So we have, like, say, an eye, and it sees something, maybe a truck in the middle of the road, right? And the eye creates an electrical impulse. It's sort of electrical. It's not exactly, but that'll do for our purposes. So it creates this little electrical impulse that will travel down these long cells. These cells, this is one cell, a neuron it's called. So this one cell, this one nerve cell, neuron, has what's essentially like an electrical impulse that goes down it, and the eye creates it. So the back of the eye, the light hits the back of the eyeball, and these nerve endings, called dendrites, are right there, and they pick up the message and they carry the message down, and then they go to the next one that might be in your brain that sends a message to another one that goes to another one that goes to your muscle and tells you to contract, and you go right. Or in the case of the truck in the way, tell you to run, or if you're touching a hot stove, to contract your arm. And so that's how it basically works. We have a stimulus like the truck. We have a receptor, the eye that sees it. And then we have a neuron, and then a little space, and then another neuron. And then we have something that does stuff in order to respond to the environment. And the regents loves to focus on the neuron. Right? So they like the neuron, and they particularly like the space between the neurons. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about that. So we have a neuron, one nerve cell, and another nerve cell. And the space in between is called a synapse. The synapse slows everything down so that you don't just keep sending messages. And imagine if you saw a truck and the message just kept getting sent, truck, 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 truck. You just keep seeing a truck even though it's long gone. You want to have control of the messages, and part of the control comes in the synapse. So the message, like if your eyeball is here and it starts a message, goes down, and then it turns into, instead of electrical, it's a chemical impulse. And the chemical travels across the synapse and starts a electrical type message in the next neuron. And that space is what they love to focus on in the regions. So at the very end of one neuron, called a terminal branch. Terminal means the end, right? So at the end of this one neuron, when the electrical impulse comes down it creates a chemical that passes across the synapse and starts on the portion on the beginning of the next neuron. That's called the dendrite. So the chemical is produced at the end of one neuron and travels across and starts it on the next one. And then when it gets here, it'll go to the next synapse and create a chemical that goes across and starts it on the next one. These chemicals are called neuro, for your nervous system, transmitters, because they transmit a message. And these things receive the chemical. This is going to be a really important concept right here. Receptors. Little portions, proteins on the outside of the cell, right here, receive these chemicals. They are receptors. That's going to be a really important concept. Okay, so the way that let me back up. So they create this chemical, and that will go across the synapse. It will fit like a puzzle piece, just like enzymes and substrates. These neurotransmitters will fit like a puzzle piece into the receptors. And if they fit, they will start that chemical reaction, or the electrical impulse rather, that goes down the next neuron. And it's the shape that matters so much. These proteins, these chemicals will join up if they match by shape. Key term receptors. And that's all we're going to talk about for today.